Let me introduce you to my Warco drill press. But could it be improved? Welcome back to the workshop. So those of you who've watched the last video will know I had some problems with the alignment on the ball screw, and we got that sorted out. We also had problems with this galling on here. It was a little bit tight, so I've just taken this over to the CNC machine and skimmed this off. I think it took about 0.1 millimeters off this surface, and this time I took the opportunity to put some additional support at the side just to stop it vibrating, and you can see it's come back with a much nicer finish now. I did give it a little trial fit and it was a bit tight, so I've also taken, so I took 0.1 off there and I took 0.05 off the bottom here, and now it's pretty nice. It's a good fit in there. So let me just show you that. If we drop that in, there's a tiny bit of clearance at the top, and then it just starts to catch somewhere. If you let it drop, it's just there we are, that's right at the bottom. So I think we'll go with that. I don't think that's going to catch and gall now. Should be a little bit clear. So the fixing's in. Leave that loose. I'll do the bottom one. And then finish the top one. Okay, let's get the brake in. Okay, before we finally assemble this is the nut that goes inside that brake assembly and slides up and down inside that section. So it's only mild steel, so I thought we'd give it a go and see if we can cold blue it and at least give it a little bit of protection. So I've degreased it, so it's completely degreased and has no oils on there. So drop it in there, brush it over a bit, leave it for 3 minutes, and then we need to wash it off, and then we'll get some oil on it and see how we go. I mean, can't make it any worse, can it? But hopefully it will give it a little bit of protection back there. Alright, so let's get that in. So we'll leave that a couple of minutes and then we'll come back and clean it. Okay, I think that's long enough. My wife's out at the moment, so we'll just go and wash it in the sink. Then we'll come back and clean off the water with a bit of WD-40. It should dispel that water, and then we'll put some oil on it. Okay. Dry it off. And a bit of WD-40 just to get the water off. Okay, and the last bit to do, a bit of oil. rub that in. Now, as I understand it, I think when you put that selenium dioxide cold blue on, it does some kind of oxidation, some kind of rusting process. I believe it opens up the pores in here as well. Not really sure on that one. And that allows the oil that I'm now putting on to just sort of embed itself into the surface and hopefully keep the rust at bay. I mean, it's not as good as, is it parkinizing and all those sort of other nitride and all those sort of other methods, but it's something. It's not particularly high humidity in this workshop, but you never know. And that, I'm pretty pleased with that. So I think it's fair to say they haven't diluted this. This is probably pretty neat. I know some of the ones you get on eBay, they've just sort of put them into another bottle and maybe watered them down a bit, but yeah, very pleased. Right, let's go and fit that on the machine. Okay, I ran the tap down the nut and just cleaned that out. It was also a little bit stiff, or there was something going on this thread as well. Maybe when I put it into the nut, it's because there was something in there, it sort of damaged the threads a little bit. So I've just cleaned those off by running it up and down this little die, and it was a bit tight in a couple of places, but now it's nice and free. So let's give it another go. Okay, so feed the nut up there. And then the tricky part of holding it in place. So that might be it. We got it? Nope. Ah, there it is. Oh, that's a lot better. Yep. Oh, that's nice. Alright, does it lock up? Or have we taken too much off? That's tight. Okay, well that's locked off. Oh yeah. That's not moving. I'll take the brake off. And lock it. Yeah. And check the other end. Bottom, lock it off. Oh yeah. Perfect. I think we're there. Lock it off. Yeah. Yeah. So we have functioning brake. Brilliant. Right, let's get on to the next job. Okay, next up we're going to get the digital readout lined up and get that installed. So we've got to get the main body there running true. So we've got to get that dialed in so it runs true to this. And then we've got to get the bracket connected between the read head that moves up and down onto the back of this ball nut. And then we need to be reasonably accurate with that because there's a bit of a tolerance, but you need to be reasonably close. Otherwise you'll damage the sensor. And then when we move this up and down, we'll get a readout of the height of this in the Z window here on the DRO display. So as you can see, I've just got this scrap bit of steel strip bolted on here, and then we can put the mag base on here, and we've got the dial test indicator, and it's running up and down the side of the body. This is the main reader. Let me just get you another one to show you what I mean. So this is one of the ones that got on the XY table. So what you're looking at is it's currently bolted on like that. Yep. So it's what we're looking at is this edge along here, and it's bolted on the top here, and you can see there's a slot there, so we can move it in and out that way, and the same at the bottom, can move it in and out that way. And then the idea is we get this nicely aligned, so that it moves in the same axis as the table. So that's the first bit we need to do. And then once we've got that sorted out, we need to get it aligned this way. Now the way I've done this, there's no real way of doing that other than just to measure the sort of how much out it is and then shim the other side to bring it back into line. I thought about all sorts of complicated brackets, but I thought, well, just shim it and I think we'll get there. And then we'll see where we are in terms of the distance between this piece and the main ball nut here. I've made the holes oversized, so hopefully we can get it somewhere close. Now, there's no manual that came with these. You're on your own a little bit, but I'm pretty sure when I did the ones from my lathe a while back, it was about 0.1 millimeters of run out you were allowed, or error. So I'll get it at least to there, which on this scale is between 0 and 10, or 0 and 90, depending on which way it goes. So we need to stay plus or minus 0.05 ideally on there. Now, they come with this little red plastic, I guess it's like a transit bracket just to hold that in place, because inside here there's the reed head and there's little ball bearings and things. So I think what we need to do, I imagine that's just a transit piece, although it does seem to move quite nicely with that on. I think we'll get it set up like that and then make sure it's, so you can see there's a gap there, so we'll make sure that's pressed tight against there, and that should set the gap for us so it can cleanly slide, and then we'll get the brackets to suit. So there's a bit of fiddling about in terms of getting this dialed in and then making sure we still get the brackets on there within their adjustment range and nothing's kind of pulling and pulling the head out of line. Then we can take the red plastic off and it should leave us with a nice bit of clearance and then move up and down. Now it's quite fiddly behind there to film, so I'll try and do the best I can to give you a few updates as we go, but essentially we're going to dial the head in, or the main body in, and then we'll get that in just the right place so when we put the bracket on nothing pulls or goes out of line, and that's the idea. We'll dial it all in. Right, so I'll bring you back in a little while. Okay, so after a bit of messing about and tuning and trying to dial it all in, I'll just bring even closer so you can see here. So we've got our DTI reference back to the main knee that goes up and down, and then we're running off the side here, and it's not far off 0 as we run all the way up and down. I'll show you that in a minute. It's certainly within about 0.05, which I'm pretty happy with. Right, let me go and show you what we've actually got. Okay, so obviously we've still got the spacer bracket on there, the red one, or the transit bracket, whatever it's supposed to be. And what I did is, so I loosened off these fixings at the top and bottom, and then loosely did up this bracket just so it was just snug in there. A tiny bit of room for it to move, but just lightly did these up, and then lightly clamped these two together just with a little plastic clamp, just to hold this against this. And then I went to the top, nipped up the little screw at the top that holds this main body in place, ran it up and down a few times and got it dialed in very straight, or close to 0 as I could on the readout, and then nipped this one up and sort of just went backwards and forwards, slowly just checking and tightening and then backing the tension off to make sure I wasn't straining anything. So essentially used the bracket, the reed head with the spacer to kind of get the body pretty close to in line. So I think we've got that. So what we'll do now, I'll just run it up and down, just show you how much run out I've got on there, and then we'll take the spacer out there, that red piece, and just see what we've got, and then we'll try the reed head out and see if we get a reading. The only thing I haven't done is checked on the back here on this face, because I guess in theory it could be leaning one way or the other, but I'm thinking, because there is a tolerance on this reed head, it does move side to side quite a lot in that groove, it might still be okay, because it's only going to be out a very tiny amount, just whatever the box section is. Okay, let me just show you the reading on the DTI. So pretty close to the bottom at the moment, and we're around 0, so let's just run it up and see what we get. It wavers slightly because probably the side of this is probably not super flat. It's just a pressed piece. About at the top, so I'd say probably about 0.04 maximum, which is well within the spec. Right, let's take that spacer bracket out and just make sure it keeps that gap consistently and it's not trying to run into the main body, and then we'll turn it on and see if it works.
This is very fiddly to film and do, but try not to lose the screw. Oh, no. Got it. Right, then this little red spacer should come out. So there's a close-up of the spacer, so you can see sort of centralises it, so it spaces it away from the main body in this direction and then tries to get it about in the middle of the slot there. So hopefully, because we've done it up with this in place, there'll be a bit of a gap, so I'll just take it around there and let's just check we've got a gap. So we're right at the bottom now. I think we've got a bit of a gap under there. Oh yeah. At the top. That feels okay. Alright, we'll run it up to the top and see if we've still got a gap. Yeah, I got a nice gap. Hopefully you can just see a little bit of a gap there. Looks nicely centralised. Just take it around the back. Oh yeah, that feels okay. Right, let's see if the readout works. We'll zero it there. Now I don't know which way it's going to go on there, so I guess when we go that way we want it to go positive. Yeah, so we want negative to be down, positive up. So let's see what happens. We'll wind it up. Well, good news is it's moving. Bad news is it's going minus. Let's see how far it will go. Somewhere there, about there, so nearly 240 millimeters, although you know how usable that would be I don't know, so a little bit less, maybe 200 give or take complete range, so that's pretty good. Right, so we'll zero it there and then we'll just switch the direction. So to do that we need to go into the menu, so we'll switch it off, switch it on again. Now on this one we have to press enter or hold the enter key down while we switch it on. Some of these are the ones you press the decimal point there on the calculator. Yeah, look at the manual depending on which one you got, but this one is enter, so let's go and do that next. Okay, let's switch it off and switch it on, but this time we'll hold down the enter key. Okay, we're going to set up. Now the instructions are here, and we want to change the direction here. So I think that's the second one. So we go down. So yeah, go down. Oh, it's the other way, isn't it? Up. Direct. There we go. And so now press enter. Which axis? So we want this one. So 0 counts one direction and 1 reverses it, so that should reverse it, and then we come out to exit, which although it should be at the top, Oh, we have to enter that, do we? Okay, yeah. And we go to exit. Okay, we're back. So if we zero it now we go down, it should go negative. Okay, down we go. Oh yeah, negative. See how accurate can you get? 0.005. Yeah. If you tap it, you can. Brilliant, right. Yeah, I'm very pleased with that. That's really good. So we'll be able to. And there's a variety of uses for that, aren't there? So if we get to our 0, let's say we're 0 in there. Maybe we've hit the top of the part. We're doing a counterbore. We want the counterbore to be 10mm deep. I guess you have got the option of drilling by moving the knee up and down. So we could get just move the knee up like that until we get whatever depth we want. If we want 10mm. Yeah, whatever. So we could do it that way. Although I do plan to have a readout off the side here and a depth stop here as well. So you can obviously do it on the quill handle as well. But at least we know where we are. So if we move our work around, we've got a Z readout. So really pleased with that. Yeah, that feels like quite a nice milestone. We've got basically a functioning knee. We've got the brake, ball screw nicely aligned, and we've got our height position. Yeah, kind of a good stage ticked off. Right, let's see what we're going to do next. Okay, this is the XY table that you might have seen in one of the earlier videos. So you also might have seen that I basically stripped it down, cleaned all the rough edges off, got everything nicely tapped and cleaned out. And it was kind of a red and a green colour. So I got it all sprayed this nice sort of silvery grey. The handles weren't super, so I just cleaned all the red off there and then put this nice kind of, I think it was a Humbrol Airfix type paint on there. Should be a bit hard wearing. So we got to that point and it was all looking nice, and it was reasonably square in terms of the direction the two axes went. However, there was a big problem with the lead screws. So here were the lead screws that were supplied with this XY table. And there's a lot of sort of swarf and sharp edges and debris down at the bottom of the thread. Also, well, the main thing that was wrong with them, they were very bent. Now I did give them to a friend who's got a pretty big press, and he had a look at them, but they're sort of bent in a funny way, and basically yeah, it wasn't going to be easy to kind of recover those, and they weren't the best quality trapezoidal thread anyway. So well, that was the option of straightening them, but wasn't looking like that was going to be a good way to go. Also then looked into the cost of just buying trapezoidal thread, just blank thread, the right pitch and diameter, which I did manage to find some, but it's pretty expensive. And then also had to find some with a left-hand thread as well, and it was all starting to add up, and then I'd have to machine it. Not that that's a big problem, I've got a lathe obviously, but it was all starting to add up and wasn't really looking like a very good option. So then I had a look around at ball screws. Now if you go to the normal ball screw supplier, the normal Chinese supplier, they've got lots of kind of ready-made ball screws. Problem with them all, they're all right-hand thread. Now there's a right-hand thread on the main table that moves left to right, so that would be this one. This is a right-hand thread, so when you turn it clockwise, the nut moves that way, which is fine because you kind of you're pulling the table along as you go like that, so that makes sense. But on the other one, so the shorter one here, a bit like on a lathe, cross slide on a lathe, this is actually, as you can see, a left-hand thread. So when you turn it clockwise, it goes the other way, which feels a bit more natural. So sort of as you turn it like that, it goes the way you might expect. Now, I did consider for a while just buying regular right-hand ball screw, so left to right would feel sort of natural, but forward and backward would be the other way. And I thought, well, I'll probably soon get used to it. But I was pretty sure I was going to be working on my lathe for a bit, where it's got the left-hand ball screw or left-hand lead screw, and then I'd come across here and I'd go the wrong way, or worse still, I'd go the wrong way on the lathe while I'm cutting something. So I thought, no, I'll persevere and try and see if we can find some left-handed ball screws. So I had a quick look at BST Automation. So there's a guy on there called Fred. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of him or even used his services. I was first made aware of his store and the sort of things he sold through the MyCNC UK. There's a couple of guys on there who've used it, and there's one guy in particular who's used them quite a lot and got some good experiences. So I bought some stuff from him, or quite a lot of stuff from him in the past, and it's worked out really well. So I had another look at his website, and I think I found some left-hand screws, but then basically I just messaged him and said, look, I'm looking for a right-hand and left-hand ball screw, these lengths, and I'd like some custom machining. To my surprise, he said, sure, yeah, we've got left-hand ball screws, and we can custom machine to those sizes, and the price was amazing. And for the quality of parts I've got, and I've got left-hand screw, and they're already machined for me, I'm really happy. So let me show you those. So this is the shorter one that we sent. So this is going to be, this one will go into there. This is the left-hand one, as you can see. And it's got custom machining on the end. So this is super long and there's a different thread. I'll come on to that in a minute. You've even obviously got the left-hand ball nut, because you have to have the compatible ball nut to go with the ball screw. So we got that. I forget how long that was, about 400 or something like that. And then the right hand ball screw, again custom machining to my drawing. There was a 12mm shaft there and an M12 coarse thread on the end, and you got your regular right hand ball nut, and then I just had a blank machined on the end there. Now that doesn't goes into something a little bit different. I'll show that a bit later, and there's no need for a circlip, so I didn't put the groove on there. So we got that right hand screw, which I forget the length, maybe 600, 650, something like that, custom machined, and the ball nut. And we got the left hand screw, custom machined, and the left hand ball nut, and the whole lot cost me about £86, 85, £86. Now you have to add VAT into that, which is 20% in the UK, which I think is about $96 US plus VAT. So I was really grateful that he's got left-hand screws in stock, and I think I also asked him for a quote without the custom machining, and the difference was about $6 or $8 or something. So, you know, well worth taking him up on the offer. So if you're in the market for ball screws that are a bit unusual, maybe left-hand ball screws, you want custom machining, because not all vendors offer that. A lot of them are just off the shelf, if you like. You know, give him a try, give him an email. He's on BST Automation on AliExpress. The one thing you've got to be aware of if you're not used to that, it's not like eBay, so you pay up front and the money goes into a third party. I think it's called an escrow account. So between you and the supplier, and then when it arrives, if you're happy, you press OK and they get paid. It's that kind of arrangement, so it's a little bit pay up front using your credit card. So as long as you're happy with that, go and check that out if you need something custom. I'm really happy with the stuff he sent in the past, and these are no exception. So let's get them fitted up loosely just so you can see what they're going to look like. Okay, let's get it out of the bag. I opened it somewhere. Oh, there we go. So it comes with this thin film of grease on it, which is fine. Stops it rusting. And oh, just noticed that. Looks like they've engraved a -10. Probably -10 microns or something like that. So they usually write on here the exact spec of balls, because you have to match the ball nut with the ball screw just to get the nice fit that you want, so it's not too tight, but it is free running, not too much backlash. Yeah, so that's quite nice. Right, so oh, the other thing's worth pointing out. This is the newer style seal, so it's like a spring-loaded clip round there that holds that black plastic guide in there. Same that side. And what it means is that they're really free running. I forgot it ran the other way. It's left-hand thread, isn't it? And you spun it off the end. As you can see, it spins really freely. So the ones with the white nylon seal that are holding with a grub screw don't spin quite as freely as that. I mean, most of the time for CNC or even manual, it doesn't really matter, but these look a little bit more robust, so that's nice. Right, let's get this is our fixed end, so you've got your usual pair of bearings inside there, and then the collar spacers there to stop it crushing right up against the seal, and hopefully this is should be a 12mm shaft or just under. Oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah, that is a nice fit. That's good. Now I haven't made it yet, but there'll be a little spacer in there, and then it's the small wheel. Oh, I should point out, I've yet to machine the keyway in here. To be honest, I should have added it to the drawing and asked about it, but I'll just assume they just did turning, and that would have been a lot more money or something. Oh, it's no big deal. My plan is I'll put that in the CNC machine, just bring that out, or take that keyway out. I mean, next time I'll ask, see if that's something they offer. I guess the other reason I didn't want to do that is I just wanted to build it all together with the spacer in and everything, get it all set, and then just check really where I wanted it to start and finish. I think that was the reason I didn't ask in the end. So that all looks good. Yeah, the problem is this isn't very good. It's drilled or bored oversized. It's much bigger than 12, and so it ends up being a little bit wobbly. That's not the ball screw fault, that's this part. But once it's locked up, we held in position. All it means, it'll just wobble slightly visually, but no big deal. Now the ends, it's just worth talking about the threads. So usually when you have this type of lock nut, you've seen on my Z-axis on my drill press, you see that thread in there is M12 fine. So that's M12 by 1, which is quite nice because much less likely to come undone. You can't put quite as much torque on a fine thread, but for this application it's fine, and yeah, it's much less likely to come undone, and you can sort of wind it on, and it's got a much finer thread, so it's a little bit more suited to this application, so it's a bit more vibration proof. And then you lock it off with a little grub screw. Now I didn't want that because I didn't want an M12 fine, which is by 1. I wanted to put an M12 coarse, which is irregular nut, just your standard off-the-shelf nuts. If you don't specify anything, you'll get a coarse, usually. So that will go on there, and then that will go on the end. So I needed to be absolutely clear on the drawing that it was a M12 by 1.75 to make sure it was coarse. And I didn't just use the default fine. Otherwise, I'd have had to buy some fine nuts. I don't know if you can get fine dome nuts. So that's basically what it's going to look like, and then we'll show you what it looks like down there. Yeah, I forgot I've got to take it apart to actually get it to go together. And actually, before we do that, this is something I had in stock, so I didn't buy this, but they're all compatible. So that'll go on there. Those fixings will go through into there, and then this will fit onto this part. Although I've got to modify it to do that. Okay. So that'll go in there. Now, if I remember, this has to go on upside down to make this work. So it goes on there. Something like that. And then obviously the wheel with the spacer in that I haven't made yet, and then the nut goes on the back. Now, I'm not that lucky, and the holes don't line up. The holes that held that big piece for the lead screw, on the end here, don't line up with where these are. That's all fine. So I need to get this into the final position, and the way I'll do that is put this on top. I've got to drill the holes in that first, put that on top, fix it onto here, that'll be screwed to that, and then that will dictate the position of where this needs to be. Then I'll just punch through and drill and tap for M5. And then that is that axis. So it's too short, I'm not going to put a support on the other end, I don't think it needs it. However, there is one small problem. Ball screws and ball nuts are much bulkier, much larger than lead screws and lead nuts. And there's a bit more package to them, so I've got to machine this down probably 1 millimeter or so through here. I've got to get down into here, one of my long reach cutters, to take this floor down a bit. There's plenty of material on there, so I'll do that to make that work. And then yeah, I think that's the plan. Right, there's a few more things I need to point out. Now this part, oh yeah, so that
Let's turn that around. Is that right? Yeah, so that will go onto there. Now of course there aren't holes, there aren't matching holes in here, there needs to be 4 holes in here to line up with that, but I've got a drawing now, I've done all the CAD for all this, so I know the parts I've got. So if I pick up off this edge and this edge, I can drill the 4 holes on the CNC machine, drill them out to a clearance. I think of I need M5, and then they will connect onto that ball nut, and that will dictate the position of everything. So that's really kind of the next job. Then after that, so this will be on top of there. This is the table, this will be turned round, that runs in those dovetails there. And to make that work, so at the moment, the ball nut, here it is. So the lead screw, the thread for the lead screw, lead nut I guess you'd call that, went on there. But that's going to be replaced by the ball nut. Have we got one? There we go. So the ball nut that's on the right hand ball screw, this is just a spare one just to show you, and it's got to fit there. So a couple of things, obviously it's way too big, it's obviously catching on there, and you can't possibly put the XY table over the top, or the main table over the top. So a couple of things, I've got to make a custom ball nut holder that goes on here, and then I've also basically got to grind off this top flange and the bottom one to make it no deeper than the main body here. So basically just take that back to there and take it back to there, so you'll only be using the 2 fixings, one on each side like that. I think that will be plenty to hold it on, but that's what I need to do to get the clearance. So there's quite a few modifications. Oh, and there was one more. Yeah, so the last modification, imagine this is upside down and it's running across there, and so this is, it's kind of there if you like, but on the other piece. What you might be able to see is in this casting, this sand casting I guess is what it is, it starts lowish there, but then there's all this extra material. There's about another 3mm of fairly rough cast material, and then it drops back down again. Now at this height it just about clears that ball nut, which is the barrel and the housing. The housing gets very thin. When I've drawn it in CAD, there's very little room above that to this piece. So basically I've got to machine all that out. Now this is on the other side of the T-slots, and at this point here I can machine it down to this surface, maybe another 0.5mm less than that surface all the way through to give me the clearance. It's starting to get the centre of that T-nut, because it's that piece of material there, through there, it's starting to get a little bit thin, maybe about 4 or 5mm, which is not ideal. I think on a milling table that wouldn't be a good idea, because you're going to pull up on that, and the centre of the table may sort of start to bow. I think for what I'm doing it will be fine, and 4mm of cast iron is still pretty good, and you've got all the other surrounding material, so hopefully that will be okay. But I guess it just goes to show, when you're converting anything that's designed for lead screws, space is always the problem when you're trying to fit ball screws in. But I've got the plan now, I'm committed, I've got the parts, I think it's going to work. We just need to get on with modifying all the bits. Okay, the video is getting quite long, so I think we'll call it there. Hopefully you appreciate the thought processes as well as just the machining. So there's obviously quite a lot of talking in that last segment, just talking through the ideas and the approach, and making sure in my own mind at least it's going to work. There was quite a lot of time spent drawing CAD for some of the parts, and a little bit of to and fro with the email between myself and BST Automation. Just, you're making this prototype, this is a one-off, it's not a kit, there's a lot to work out behind the scenes. So we did still make some progress though, so really pleased. I mean, basically I've got a functioning knee now, it goes up and down, it's nice and smooth, the brake works, we got our readout on the Z-axis there with the read head. I was a bit worried about that and whether I was going to get that to work and how fiddly it was going to be, but in the end it wasn't too bad. We got that set up nicely. Yeah, so it's good progress, but there's clearly quite a lot more to do on the XY table. Okay, if you did enjoy the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you like. Not that fussed what you think, it's just good for the algorithm. I'm joking, of course. It is good to hear your comments. Hear your comments? I can't hear them, can I? It's always good to read your comments, just know what you think about the video and some suggestions you've got for various parts of the build as we progress through them. So I think for next time we need to, there's quite a lot of talking in this one, so we'll get back to doing a bit of machining. We've got some parts to make like this one. And hopefully not too much talking. So as always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.